All right. So, welcome in, everybody. For those that don't know me, my name is Courtney Anderson. I'm an independent consultant with Arbonne International, and I started this growth network community about 6 weeks ago because I've learned so much from every individual that I've worked with on the 30 Days to Healthy Living, which is basically a jump start to a healthier lifestyle focused on gut health. So, in these meetings, week after week, we've been diving deeper into the mind body connection or the brain gut connection because we've all been conditioned by fast food convenience, Uber Eats, commercials that end up creating a huge disconnect between the mind and the body. So, in the 30 days, we've set up our gut and body for success. And now in this community, we've been working on setting up our minds for success. Last week, after the Growth Network community meeting, I put a post up on Facebook and Instagram because we all know who are having the same struggles we are with stress and shame and guilt that we talk about every week. And it's not just around food choices, it's around all choices that we make. So I put this post up inviting other people that may need this in their life. And this very special individual by the name of Skibbens basically responded to my Instagram post asking, what exactly is the Growth Network community? So we connected because I set it out into the universe to bring goodness into this community. And here he is, packaged up by the name of Jay. He is a life coach. So I checked out his page to see exactly who he was. And not a lot of people know exactly what a life coach is or what they do. So I invited him in to talk about basically what he masters in, which is in mindset, to help all of us understand like what kind of value a life coach can bring into the rest of us. So I'm really stoked and happy and grateful, Jay, that you and I connected, and we will be working together. Jay is now going to be helping me with a few, because as you all know, I've come a long way, but the work is never, well, the effort is never over. I continue to want to put more in. So Jay and I are going to be working together, and here he is. Jay, thank you so much for coming in and share with us your mission.
Okay. Well, yeah, thank you. Oh, wow. Is that okay? So there's an echo. Is it gone?
I don't hear it.
Okay. So thank you for having me on. When I connected with Courtney, it was one of those things that me personally, I've been really intentional this month of February, and it was just like a manifestation kind of thing that like growth, like a network of growth is just like, you can't combine better words for me. In community, you add that in there, and it's just everything that I want to be doing. So my story is one, I'm a dad. I have two sons that will, if they're getting their stuff done right now, will be able to come say hi. But they're awesome, and I've been a teacher. I taught sixth grade for 2 years and loved that. Well, actually, I will say I loved the kids. I did not love the other adults I worked with. They kind of made the job harder. And now I work in social work, and I work mainly with dads, trying to get them set up with resources, trying to give them a space to talk, give them just the same benefits that we give moms is really what it comes down to, is that there's a lot of mom help in social work, but dads, that I've found the one area where men aren't in the majority, they don't have the privilege in that area. So I just try to help them understand what's going on. But what I found in both teaching and in social work is that those are two systems that don't speak to people's individuality. They don't speak to how does it work for me personally? How do I become better? How do I level up? How do I do these things. School systems and social work systems are they're designed for the masses. And that's not a good way for you to create that optimal life. It's not a great way for you to understand that, like, when you feel something in your body or you feel something in your mind, how do you deal with it? Like, school's not set up for that. Social work isn't set up for that. But I've always been called to help human beings. So what I've really been leaning into is this way to overcome doubt. How do you instill a confidence in yourself? How do you instill trust in yourself to the point where, like, these obstacles that we know are going to come up, whether that's with food, whether that's with work, whether that's in relationships, whether that's just living our life, if we're a little bit high anxiety, how do we live with a confidence in ourselves that no matter what happens, we'll trust in ourselves that we'll have the answer. So what I do is I work with people to develop plans to really navigate those obstacles, because they're going to come up, and we either have a plan and have a way to deal with it, or we don't have a plan and we get derailed, because we can't avoid those things. So what we do is we work together. I have really just been trained to ask the right questions. You are coming up with all of the things that you will be putting into place. So it's not like me coming in and saying what's going to work for you. I'm going to ask enough questions and ask the right questions that will pull out of you the right way to recognize the routines and things you already have in place and move them to a place that they're actually working for you instead of working against you. So that's basically the overall idea of what I'm doing. And then the great thing about a job like this is it really forces me to be, like, practicing what I preach. So that's where I connected with Courtney, and I have also been living intentional. She put that post out. I just felt like it was, like, serendipitous that, like, we came together, and there's even things that we've talked about already that she's working on that I'll be able to help her with. And our bond seems like something that'll help me, because I actually have, like, gut issues myself. So, like, it just couldn't have been more perfect. And I only know that was meant to be because we're both doing the work we're doing. Like, we already have put in the work to get to this point. So that's my opening spiel.
Yeah, great. And I agree. A lot, specifically Lindsay and I'm going to talk about the first question regarding something that Lindsay and I talked about last week on this meeting. But we talk about universe all the time. And last week we got into affirmations, and Lindsay and I have been putting so much into the universe lately, and she's actually the one that really encouraged me to continue with affirmations and kind of modify them. And it really works. The world revolves around energy, and this group that we've created is only amplifying everyone's energy, and everyone's growing in their own way. But the way that Jay and I kind of saw this happening was that I would ask him a couple questions that I feel we could all really benefit from knowing more about life coaching, and then we'd like to open it up to everyone to ask questions that they have, or thoughts that they have, or experiences, and kind of poke and prod what Jay can bring for us. So my first question for you, Jay, to share with all of us. So I've worked with everyone on this healthy living plan, 30 days to healthy living. And I've talked about how our choices are more of an exploration, like what we choose to eat, how we exercise, our routines for going to bed and waking up. And for those that weren't in the meeting last week, we featured one of our members, Lindsay, who has had some really amazing breakthroughs in her wellness journey on Arbonne's 30 days. And she shared the methods that really helped her build her mindset before she started the 30 days and continued during. And Jay, as a life coach, how would you help someone find the right fit for their methods and routines to help their mindset and their life?
Sure. And it's funny because you gave me the YouTube link and I watched it, and something that Lindsay said really caught my attention and, like, really speaks to what I can do. And it's the idea of this worked for me, but it might not work for you, right? I think that we hear that a lot, that idea that, like, I found what works for me, but that might not work for you. And I think that's where I come in, is that in the same way that somebody might sit down for an hour per week or every other week and look at their budget and really try to like put their finances in order, right? They're gonna look where their money's going, they're gonna look how much money is coming in, and they're gonna make a plan for what to do about the money coming in and how to make less money go out. The same thing happens with all of you who have a shopping list, or you're gonna plan ahead with the meals that you have. What happens is that we don't do that same thing for our life. We don't plan ahead all of the time with our goals or our intentions or the way that we want to feel when we wake up in the morning. I did hear that you guys are doing a grounding technique, and that's just one part of being intentional, right? Yeah. A life coach is going to help you be intentional in all parts of your life. Because one thing I like to talk about is when you buy a house, you don't move in and keep everything the way that they had it before. Like you saw it the way that they had it when you were showing it, like when they were showing it to you, right? You saw their furniture. You don't move in and put everything exactly the way that they had their furniture. You buy a house and you start to make it yours. And unless you're like perfect at moving and maybe a millionaire, it also might take you a year or 2 or 3 to really make that house feel like yours. Like it takes stages, it takes progress, it takes patience to really make that house feel like your house. And that's the same thing that's happening in life coaching, is that ideally, I'm going to work with you for 3 weeks, 6 weeks, maybe 9 weeks. But then the rest of the time after that, you're going to have all these things you're going to be putting into place. You're going to be arranging your furniture. You're going to be hanging up the right paintings. You're going to be decorating the house the way that you want it to be. I'm just going to give you the ideas and tools and routines, really. And we're going to take what you have already and we're going to mold it to help you really bring out the best in your life, because there's peer pressure, but then there's like your own head peer pressure. Like nobody knows you better than you do. So while your friends might be able to support you, or your friends sometimes might be able to pull you out and do, like maybe go out for drinks when you probably shouldn't, stay out too late when maybe you shouldn't, you also know what's going to work for you. And you also know what is going to talk you out of doing the right thing. Like sometimes it's, maybe I should go to bed, but I really want to watch one more episode of this show. Maybe it's, I brought my own lunch, but they ordered pizza at work. And like, I'd really, really rather have that pizza. So it's, and you know what the right, or not even right, but you know that you have a plan. But in your head, you're able to talk yourself out of it because you're the best. You know yourself the best. So really what we do is we put plans in place that like understand that you know yourself, understand that those moments are going to happen, and give you a plan to put into place when those moments do come up. So that way, you're just sidestepping them. You're just understanding those things are happening. You're not acting like you're perfect. You're not acting like you're invincible. You're acting like a human, and you are living your best life.
Awesome. Second question. So I've learned that people can gravitate to feeling stuck when they're overwhelmed with to-do lists and goals and too many options to choose from. And then there's some people that head in the opposite direction and just try to control everything. So it's either like analysis paralysis or bossy pants comes out. So what kind of ways would you help manage that like chronic reaction that we all get?
Well, that to me is where we really dive into like, what are the reasons behind what you're doing? And some people kind of confuse what life coaching is compared to like therapy. And therapy is going to be digging up what's happened in the past to maybe understand the motivations behind things and like the deep buried traumas. I'm not a therapist. What I do is I look at here and now. I look at, you want to be waking up early and getting your day started right, but you're not. So what are you doing instead of doing what you want? So if you're a person who wants control, what is it that you're trying to control? And like, what is that feeling that you're trying to go for so that you feel like you're in control of your life? I think that some people want these things, but they aren't sure how to understand how their actions are impacting the results. So we really start looking at, where's your ideal? Like, where is this version of the person that you want to be? Because we all have this ideal. And to me, having that vision, having that ideal is exactly where we need to start. But then we kind of work backwards and we break that down into actionable steps. We break that down so that you do have a way to get there every day. Because once you have that plan in place, every day doesn't have to be perfect, but every day we're making progress. Every day we are building on what we've already done. And we are understanding that when you have a plan, if you get 70% of the plan done, we don't look at the 30% that you didn't do. We look at the 70% that you rocked out and that you really did make progress and you didn't let yourself down, right? Because that's what this is for. You're investing in yourself. And a lot of it, that fear, we want to control things because we're scared to let ourselves down. We do have high expectations for ourselves, and we do want the best for ourselves. So sometimes we get wrapped up in wanting to control it and wanting to make it, yes, progress over perfection. It's like we want it to be so perfect. And I think this actually leads into another question you're going to ask, but it's just like, we just kind of let go of that. And we understand that we trust, that's where the trust starts coming in. We trust that we have a plan. We trust that we made that plan. Like, and actually, when I say we, you trust that that plan came from you. I'm just going to ask you questions and you're going to come up with the answers. So it's not even anything that I'm saying, hey, do this, follow this, and you'll be better. It's like, hey, what is this like for you? What works? What doesn't? What are the obstacles? You're going to give the answers and you're going to make the plan yourself. So that's how we start building that trust in yourself, because you're the one in control and you don't have to make it perfect. You just have to make it for you.
And you mentioned something about how, like, a lot of the time we focus on the 30% that we didn't do versus the 70% that we did. So, like, why do we do that? Why do we focus on the shit versus the goodness?
Well, okay, so this this is something that I could go off the deep end on, because I think that to me this goes back to school. That this is how we're graded. This is how we're conditioned to look at the world. That if I am doing well in school, but then I get an 80% on a test, that I didn't get 100, right? But like, if I got 80%, like I know what I'm doing. Like I know, and I think that what happens is that and we haven't mentioned it, my coaching business is called Open the Box Coaching. And to me, that's because we are a society that loves to label. We love to put people in boxes. We love to say, hey, you're this or you're that, because it helps us categorize, group. It helps us compare, honestly. And that's unfortunate, because the only things that we should be comparing is us to us. Like, we should just be comparing us to like what we did yesterday. And I think that's what happens when I come into somebody's life, is that they're at a place where they're willingly looking for help, and they are wanting to be better. So I come into their life in a really, like, to me, exciting part of their life, but they come into it with however many years of baggage that they're carrying, right? We talked earlier, and I think that to me, when kids go through different things, when they go through traumas at school, when they go through traumas at home, it's like putting on a 5-pound bag of sand on them. And then they start carrying that throughout their whole life, and it just wears them down. And as you start to heal yourself and as you start to understand yourself, you're starting to take those bags off. But then even if you get them all off, you're back at ground zero, right? You're back at where you were as like this happy little kid. But that's what I start seeing, right? I start seeing that joy in people. I start seeing that excitement for life. I start seeing that the vision and the manifestation, like you're doing, like, and like kind of what we're both doing. We're making these things happen for ourselves, and then you start to they start to see the excitement in their own life too. And I think that's like what is the best part about being a coach, is that there's no lacking of motivation, just because I'm seeing people get better, and they're like, I'm learning from them just as much as they're learning anything from me. Like it's definitely a two-way street.
So I think, let's open it up. Like, does anyone have any thoughts or questions that they'd like to throw at Jay? See what sticks.
I'm curious what your morning routine looks like.
Okay. Well, this is something that I have been tweaking for a while, but really, I wake up at 6 a.m. I wake up, and first things first, I go get water. I definitely just want to it helps me get away from my bed. That's like the biggest thing, is like the further I can get away from my bed, the better, because I will get back into bed if I don't. And then really, I put on coffee, I put on headphones because usually my kids are here, and I listen to a podcast while I kind of clean up, because I don't like cleaning up at night. So my tidying of the kitchen happens in the morning. But then what happens is that as I'm tidying up, I'm listening to the podcast, I'm writing down ideas for the day. That's where a lot of my posts are going to come from. So if I'm at like 6 o'clock to 7 a.m., it's really just, I don't have a lot that I build into it. I just give myself that hour to really just be able to think. Like I do tasks that I think that listening to your call last week, I think Lindsay talked about putting yourself on auto drive, or like kind of like I think that's what
Autopilot. Yeah.
Autopilot. Yeah. um, so I'm listening to ideas. I'm getting motivation. There's this podcast that I love, I think it's called the Smart People Podcast, and there's a host that talks to people who are really good at a lot of different things. And that's where that's my idea time of the day. And then that just builds my day. It's like, it's starting my day with intention, because I'm coming up with ideas, and then I'm able to build on that throughout the day. And because I think Lindsay and I talked about it, if I have too many ideas that I don't get out, they all come out at night. And then I'm just like, I have to have like a pad and paper right by my bed. And then I'm waking up at night and having to write ideas down. So if I get them all out in the morning, it helps me out tremendously.
Great. Anybody else?
I have a quick question. How do you hold your clients accountable? And I think that's for Courtney and for you, Jay, because I know that a lot of people will work towards progression, and we get better, and then we work on things, and then we fall off the bandwagon. And not so much 70-30, it's how do you continue to keep up with accountability in people's life to continue to move forward in positive ways?
Well, since that's us both, Courtney, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
So I have trouble with this. That is one of the things that I'm going to have Jay help me with, is how to help people build in their own accountability into themselves. Because, I mean, let's face it, we're not going to stay connected forever. And really, I want to empower you to find that within. So that's where I know Jay's going to help me with that personally. So then maybe I can transfer that on to anyone else that I work with. But I definitely need guidance. So Jay, help us out.
Well, okay. So for me, it comes down to what I said earlier about you know yourself best. I was coaching somebody earlier this week, and I was actually working on his morning routine. And his morning routine is that he wants to do 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups before he takes a shower in the morning. And he's going to do them in rounds of 25. He's going to do 25 push-ups, 25 sit-ups, and then alternate. And we got through that. And then after that, he's going to get coffee. He's going to read his book. He's going to journal. And then we're getting most of the way through his morning routine, and I'm like, okay, this is awesome. This is I kind of want to steal this from you. But we got to this point where he was like, that 100 push-ups, I really like to show Cobra Kai, and those episodes are about 25 minutes. What if I just started an episode of Cobra Kai and I did the push-ups and sit-ups during that episode? And he was what do you think about that? And that's always it's a trigger as a coach. When a person asks me what I think about that, they're looking for a validation of sort, right? They're looking for me to be like, yes, that's a good idea, or no, that's not. But I'm just gonna put it back on him. And I was like, so let's play this out. Let's imagine that you don't get the 25, or you don't get the 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups done before Cobra Kai is over. What happens then? And then it's well, I'd probably start another episode, right? He's not going to stop the episode. So to me, I like to put that back on the person, because I'm not an expert on you. I'm an expert on asking questions to get answers out of you. So I'm going to put it on you, because you might tell me, oh yeah, I'll do that, Jay, I'll do that. But you know exactly how you're going to talk yourself out of it when it comes down to it. So I'm going to help you put plans in place that when those obstacles do come up, that you'll be able to navigate them. So for him, it was no, we're not going to let you watch Cobra Kai before you get done. if you get done and you have enough time before you have to shower, we can talk about it, putting it in then. But the accountability piece, it's another piece that has to be individualized, because what works for Crystal isn't going to work for Lindsay, and what works for Lindsay isn't going to work for Courtney. So I'm gonna ask the right questions that get to how you get in your own way, and then we're gonna make a plan for that.
Great. All right. Well,
I think it's a tough question, just because I know a lot of us do really good for 30 days, or where we go really well for so much amount of time. And then all of a sudden we're like, we go back, especially with gut health, we go back into like those bad habits of, I'm not even drinking enough water, or I see a sweet, you're at work and that pizza party came up, and then you're like, oh, I've been so good, I want to be able to do it. And then all of a sudden one time becomes another and becomes another, because you want to be able to give yourself, it goes back to the 80-20. You want to be able to give yourself some type of like limitations of times where this is okay. So I think that it's just a way of like, we all have to have individual plans of accountability, but I think it's hard for even my own mind, for a lot of us to say, how do I hold myself accountable? So
okay. And no, I think that you also bring up a good point, because when it comes to those things, as Lindsay and I talked about, Courtney and I talked about, like say you're out at dinner with friends and you kind of have a plan in place for what you want to order, right? And it's going to be different than what other people are going to order. And then you have those moments of doubt. You have those moments of like, well, what are they going to say? Like, what are they going to think? Like, what are they? And it's all about what other people are going to react to. What we're going to do is work on those feelings that you have attached to making that decision, so that you're making that decision with confidence. I think a lot of this comes from, sometimes we just don't trust ourselves and we don't have confidence in ourselves. So part of the accountability is also building in that trust, building in that confidence, that even if your friends, for whatever reason, joked on you or made fun of you for doing that thing, that you are going to realize that that's just them. And your source of confidence, your source of trust comes from inward, not from outward. So it just gives you that validation that I'm going to feel good later. I'm going to enjoy this meal, not only tonight, but also tomorrow. So that it's not, so the doubt isn't creeping in as much. That I think that's where the accountability comes in, like after we work together, is because my job is to instill the confidence, to instill the trust, and then you carry it with you beyond what we do together.
Great. So you touched on it, Jay, about perfectionism. So I never thought that I was a perfectionist, but I noticed, and it was kind of called out to me when I first started my business. And I realized that when I try to make things as ideal as something's happening. Okay. If I try to make things as ideal as I want them to be, I end up like just stopping and not doing anything. So it's kind of like that, again, that paralysis that I talked about. I get that with overwhelm. Well, it's better, but there's improvement to be needed. But like with perfectionism, I feel like a lot of people don't even realize that they have this. But how do you tackle that exactly? And I know a lot of it is asking individual questions, but where does that come from?
I think that hold on. Let's try it again. I think that I am the same way. I was like a slacker growing up. Like I was like the class clown in school growing up. So like the idea of being a perfectionist to me would never, like, how could I be a perfectionist if like I don't even try sometimes? Like that was the thing, right? I don't even try sometimes. But I think that what happens for some people is like we've talked about, there's difference and there's going to be individual. And unfortunately, that's just kind of the answer with coaching, is that sometimes like it's always going to be individual. But I think that one thing that we can do is find the reasons behind why you're not trying. So for me personally, I would try to block out like periods of time where I was going to work on something. And I my procrastination is by cleaning, right? For whatever reason, you can tell when I have a big project coming, because my house is like immaculate. Like it's just, it's vacuumed, like the floorboards are dusted and washed, like the dishes are done. That's how I procrastinate. But I think that's because for me personally, I get such a good feeling from that right away. I know that it's like, as soon as I get the vacuum out of the closet and do one swipe, I start feeling good. But when I start working, if I don't have a very clear idea of what I'm going to work on, it might take a little bit of time to get to that good feeling, right? So we kind of put things in place there and get you that feeling that you get other places. We're going to put it earlier. So for me, what I've been doing lately is I'm just going to put a timer on and I'm going to get as much work done as I can in 5 minutes, right? Like it sounds silly. It sounds like such a short amount of time, but what that does is that it helps me get my computer out faster. It helps me get to the right document. It helps me get a template out, and it helps me get at least a few lines out so that that initial, oh, I don't know what to do, oh, this is gonna take forever, I knock that out and I start having a good feeling. So a lot of what we do, even though it's an individual, is we find the area that you're substituting for. What's that? We help you find that area in your life that you're substituting for that, like, perfectionist. Like, what is it that you are scared of if you put out a less than perfect product, right? Or what is it that's stopping you from getting started? And we find a way to get you that feeling in a different way. So even it is individual, we're kind of playing around with what you're doing and what your body is like, thinking and feeling, really.
Great. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Any other thoughts or questions for Jay here with Open the Box coaching? Okay, well, my last question is, what would someone gain from life coaching?
Well, the fastest, easiest answer is time, okay? And what I mean by that is we spend so much time stressing over things that we could just have a plan for. For me, it's busy work. Like in my job, I have busy work. I have to fill out forms. I have to fill out visit reports, and they don't always, they're not what I want to do. And even though they only take about 20 minutes, I will spend 2 hours stressing about it and not wanting to do it and dreading it, and then I lose that time. Okay, the same thing is going to happen if I'm not confident about asking for a promotion, right? If I think that I'm doing a good job at work and I know that I'm capable of doing it and I know that I should put my name up for that, but I don't, then how much time do I waste working at the same position? That could be like months or years even. The same thing happens when you're in a relationship that you either want to talk about going to the next level or talk about getting out of, or just bringing up something in your relationship that you are worried about how your partner is going to react to it, right? Sometimes we have these things that we build up in our mind as, oh my gosh, how are they going to respond to this? How are they going to, like, are they going to hear me? Are they going to know what I mean? When if we have a plan for you and we have this confidence, we build that confidence in you, that you get back all of that time that you spent stressing and that you spent worrying and you spent doubting yourself. So if we can eliminate the doubt, or at least put a plan in place for the moments of doubt to have an actionable step, what we do is we give you back time. And then with that time, you have freedom to chase those things that you might have forgotten about. There are things that you have wanted to do that you have been putting off unintentionally because you've been stuck doing other things. So with that time, you have the freedom to really pursue the best version of yourself, because we only do have this life. Like, we do only have this one go at things. So I don't want you to spend any more time worrying. I don't want you to spend any more time doubting yourself or not trusting in yourself or listening to outside forces when the best expert is already inside of you. So to me, that confidence and that trust really is going to help push you to the limits that past limits that you put on yourself. So you kind of become infinite so that you can accomplish whatever it is that you want to do. And to me, that's the greatest part. So I feel like I'm living proof of that right now. I have finally stopped doubting and I'm just doing, right? I'm no longer overthinking. I'm no longer getting in my own way. I am learning as I'm going. And the fact that I'm sitting here talking to Courtney and talking to all of you is proof of that, because if I hadn't done, then I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be doing the other things that I'm doing. And is it perfect? I don't think so. I second guess myself all the time, but I also know that I've got a plan and I'm following it. And I know that even just a month ago, I'm much better off than I was. And 6 months ago, wouldn't recognize me right now. And not that I was some terrible like vagabond 6 months ago. It's the fact that the growth that you see in yourself. And I think that Lindsay, you kind of talked about it in the call last week, that you have new problems, right? And I'm a betting man, so I might bet that you would keep the problems you have now versus the problems that you had before. As you start growing, as you start progressing, you don't stop having problems at all, but the new ones are worth it because they're not coming from inside of you. You're not creating your own obstacles. You're not creating your own problems. You're just now navigating how to live this life of intention and abundance, and seeing how other people have a hard time. Like, it's them. Like, your problems are not coming from other people, and that's not stopping you from growing. So it's just, to me, I'm just giving time, I'm giving freedom, and I'm giving that confidence in yourself that you can do everything that you wanted to do.
Awesome. Oh gosh. Oh goodness, what happened? Hello, shalom. Well, I think that brought a heap of value and just dropped it on us. So thank you, Jay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone else have thoughts, questions to fire at our new friend Jay here? Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time. Like, this is great, away from your little guys that I'm sure are really sad that they didn't make their 15 minutes of fame. Do they want to come on and say hi?
They might. Here, hold on. I'll see if they want to say hi. Hold on.
They're so cute. Well, thanks everybody else for tuning in. Again, investing in your mind health, your growth mindset every week for 6 weeks. Like, give yourself a hug for that, right? Has everyone best friended themselves over the last week? Friend request sent. Look at this little guy.
You say hi? There's a lot of people on this one. This is Sawyer.
It's Sawyer.
Hi, Sawyer.
Yeah, that's Anna.
Hi.
All right, that's it. That's all. That's Yep.
Enough of that.
So cute. All right. Well, again, thanks so much, everybody. Does anyone want to talk about their growth assignments, their growth work assignments that they did over the last week? Has anyone set reminders to do that mind-body connection? Did anyone get the I Am app? Yeah.
I did.
How do you like it, Tina?
I love it. I love reading them.
Me too.
I love reading them.
That's
Some
great.
of them are always so like spot on, sometimes kind of scary. I'm like, how I'm feeling at the moment. And I'm like, wow, wait. Yeah, pretty cool.
That's that universe like thing that we talk
Crazy.
about. Like, you're putting that energy out there and it's like coming right back to you.
Yeah. And pretty much a lot of what Jay was talking about, I literally, if you know who my supervisor is, Miss Courtney,
Yes.
literally told me the other day that I need to learn my value. That she didn't think that I quite knew my value as me. And I'm like, after I thought about that, I'm like, she's kind of right. Like, I don't think about some of the things that I accomplish as, single mom, working full time, trying to get healthy, I don't think about the things that I've accomplished. My mindset's always in, like you say, Courtney, about the shit, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to get myself out of that. And Jay, I could really use some good tips about how to recognize my value a little bit more, you know, without feeling like, oh my God, I'm being conceited for myself, or you know what I mean? Like I think sometimes people don't allow themselves to know their value because they feel like they're being, you know, I don't know,
I think a lot of us can
about
relate.
it, or like, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's like, you know, sometimes I feel like I need to give myself a pat on the back and I don't, you know, so.
Yeah, yeah, really good as far as like what's bragging and what's like loving yourself.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean,
Jay,
so Christina, what do you think, like, what do you value about yourself?
Well, I mean, I know I'm a hardworking person. I'm a 100% single mom raising a 12-year-old. I have a 25-year-old that I also raised on my own. I mean, I have good work ethics, I think. But sometimes I feel like I just don't give myself enough credit for things that I do. And I look at like, well, I wish I could do this, or I wish I had that, or I wish I had a family like everybody. You know what I mean? Like I tend to live in the what I wish I had versus what I do have. And really what I do have is not really that bad. And I have to learn to recognize that. And I'm working on that.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so then what do you think somebody else would say your value is?
I'm really not sure.
Okay.
Courtney, what would you say?
Or hold on, could I rephrase that?
Yeah.
Like, who do you bring value to? Because you talked about your two sons. So, and then you talked about how
Two daughters.
two daughters, sorry.
Mhm.
So are there people besides them that you bring value to?
Well, my mom says I bring value to her. Really, no, not just
Would anybody
family.
in this group say that Christina brings value to their life?
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah. Right?
Because we're growing together. And I just want to say that I think a lot of us can relate to you. I mean, I've gone through a lot of therapy to feel valued. I'm a single mom. I also have a 12-year-old. I lived
Mhm.
at my parents' house for a long time and I never felt worthy of myself. I worked 2 jobs, busted my ass, and always in my head, I'd always go back to the shit, not feeling good enough and not feeling valued. And there was value in myself. So yeah, I'm with you. So I
Yeah.
understand. And that's why we're connected. And I'm here, and it took me a long time to feel appreciative of who we are today. And it's because we relate ourselves to the society and the social media and the norm of where we should be. And we can't
Yeah.
compare ourselves to others. We have to have our own story and be proud of our own place.
Yeah, I find myself doing that a lot with social media. But like, oh my gosh, my life is nowhere near like what my friends are. I mean, they have kids going off to college. I had my last child at 42 years old. I'm 55 with a 12-year-old, and I'm watching all my friends, they're vacationing, and their kids are in college. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm dropping mine off at junior high still. And, like, it's crazy. I find myself sometimes getting depressed about it. And then I think, oh my gosh, I have this beautiful child. I'm very blessed. To have her, and what having her did for my life. I mean, I was in a really bad place when I had my beautiful little girl, and she basically saved my life. So I have to think about those things. And those are things I have to remind myself of all the time. So yeah.
You better Facebook friend me. We better be friends after this.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Well,
So,
and
yeah.
Courtney, that was something that you and I kind of talked about so I run a dads group that meets weekly on Tuesdays. And we have like a text group chat that it's there for like when you need it, right? Because there are times that it's just like, hey, this like today sucked, or I'm going into court over like visitation rights, or one of the guys was just like, he just let out like I'm just having a hard time this week. And we're just there. Because I think that what can happen is what you feel can feel so isolating, whether that's feeling lonely or feeling like you don't have value, or feeling misunderstood or weak. That sometimes it's good to know that other people feel that same way. And you already have this community here. You have this bond with these other women that is a value, right? That you are going to give to this group just as much as you may take away from it. So I think that's a value that you bring, because your vulnerability right now is allowing everybody here to connect with you.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I don't really know what that means, like what my value is. And she obviously was right. Like, I don't know, you think you might know what your value is to certain things, but you don't. So, but thank you.
Tina, I want to say that I have known you for years now, and for you to actually be open to her saying that to you, like, look at that growth.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people would say, what the hell does she know? She doesn't know anything about me. And just like wave it off. But you're looking at it as an opportunity to turn in and actually do something about it.
Right. Yeah, I thank you.
Yeah.
It really made me think. And I'm glad she said it to me, actually. I mean, it was, it really made me think about myself a little bit. It kind of was like you said, at first I was like, what the hell? Like, what'd she say that for? And then it made me think about it. And she wasn't trying to be condescending. She was just saying, and later on, she even said to me, I hope you didn't take that the wrong way. I think you're an amazing person, but you just don't know your value. And I'm like, oh, so then I felt a little different about what she said. I'm like, oh, all right, well, yeah. So then it just really started making me think about myself and like, why am I feeling like crap all the time? I have a lot to be thankful for, and I am valuable to a lot, my children and my family and my work, and I'm blessed with a lot of the stuff I have, and it just made me think about, it's time to get out of that gutter that I've been in for a long time, and it really did. I thanked her actually for telling me, because it really made me think about things. And this group, being in this group, because I have been kind of like isolating myself from like my friend. I don't see a lot of my friends or talk to them anymore like I used to. And this group is just really getting me back out there to open up to other people and be able to talk. And yeah, I appreciate you all.
So great.
Yeah. Oh, there he is.
There's Elliot. That's Elliot.
So cute.
Hi.
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 Hey, Adam.
Hi, how are you?
And you.
It's adorable.
And then Christina, I think that one thing that I've done for myself that has helped, and it was hard, right? Because I think that one thing that people don't realize is that these things are skills. And if you were never taught how to value yourself or how to see value in yourself, you are a beginner, right?
Yeah.
Like you are a beginner in seeing your value. You are a beginner in those things. So you kind of have to start with beginner practices, like maybe writing down things that you enjoy about yourself or that make you happy. And then you kind of maybe value is like, what things do you enjoy doing? Maybe you enjoy cooking. Maybe you enjoy doing other things, and that provides value. So I think that once you start listing the things that you find value in, that you bring value, that you are thankful for, once you list those things, you can start becoming more aware of them. And I think that the same thing, like the same way that we can become aware of like opportunities, or become aware of like my favorite thing is like the frequency illusion. When you buy a new car, you start seeing that car all over town. When you start writing down the things that you value or the things that you are grateful for, you'll start seeing more of them, right? And then it becomes an easier practice. It becomes a more habitual thing that you see more. And then once you see more things to be grateful for, it just starts building. And it's but then you have to remember that it is just you're just trying. You're beginning and you're getting better at it.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. It's a good idea. Yep.
Well, everybody, this has been so great. Tina, honestly, thanks for adding and opening with
Yeah.
those feelings, because
Thank you.
like Crystal said, we can all relate. And
Mhm.
that's so great, Jay, that you pointed out that is a skill. I never thought of it that way. And I never thought that was
Yeah.
something that you'd have to start at a beginner level and then obviously develop it. But that's a great way to see it. It's hard to see stuff when it's all bottled up in the mind.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Courtney, I don't know out of your clients who's interested in doing a group text, but I'm always interested in being a group text. It could be like the growth network group text for
Yeah,
us
I love
to
it. That's
rely
what
on each other and just
that's
say
what
like
Jay was
whoever
saying.
wants to
It's
send
so
like
good.
positive quotes to each other, or like, hey, I'm struggling right now with this suite, and we can kind of just say like help each other in small ways. You know, what's nice about phones is you don't always have to keep it on loud, and we can just check it. And you know, if someone's available to text at that moment and somebody else is not available, it gives us to be able to grow our network and be able to come closer together. So
Yes. I will start it as soon as we get off.
Oh yes, and I would be a terrible life coach if I didn't plug my Instagram and my Facebook. So if you're on Instagram or Facebook, it's called Open the Box with Jay. And then my business is called Open the Box Coaching. So if you just search Open the Box with Jay, that'll find me on Facebook and Instagram.
Thank you so much, Jay. And thank
Yeah,
you,
it was a pleasure.
everybody.
Thank you.
This has been another awesome meeting of the Growth Network.
That hour goes by way fast.
Right? I know. But yes, so Crystal, fantastic, because then so much time for the next week won't go by where we're not really helping each other out as much as we want to. So I'm so proud of everybody.
Thank you, Courtney.
we love you, Courtney.
Yes,
Love you.
thank you for doing this.
I love all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the evening. Make it great.
Thanks, Jay. Nice meeting you.
Well, yeah, and thank you
Bye,
all. Thank you very
Jay.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night. Good night. Good night.
See you next week.
Next week. That's right.
Mhm.